Welcome, welcome. This is the Treasures of Life show, your home of energy. My name is Jonas Simba. How have you been? Treasures of Life show is your show. It comes to you every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Prime time, by the way. A time when you're back from your hustle, your bustle, from your day generally. You come and you get energized here on the Treasures of Life show from Science TV, your inclusion platform. Just in case you watch this on your phone or on your laptop, keep following it on Science TV on YouTube. Just go in there, you'll get all manner of shows, motivation. No one can work or walk this life without motivation. Just imagine this. You are alone and no one is encouraging you. It's just a matter of time and all the energy is gone. But Treasures of Life show is here to do the opposite, to give you energy. My sign language interpreter today is none other than Gideon Miner. We share energy every Wednesday and we encourage you to share your views with us on 0111980384. I like it when you start with the word treasures because that number sometimes receives messages from my other shows. So you start with the word treasures and then you give your view, 0111980384. I have my private socials, Blind Jonas Simba, Facebook and TikTok. Go in there, just follow, give a view there, do something, be my follower there. Yes, we come to you live from Nairobi. Yeah, Nairobi, Kenya. So those of us who are watching from this country, Kenya, karibu sana. If you're watching from away from Kenya, welcome. And give us your views. Let's walk this journey. I'm introducing a topic, but next week, I hope to bring a professional in the next show who may share this because my views, my opinion may be from a very layman's perspective. I'm not the best person to talk on this, but I believe that laymen are sometimes the best advisors. Did you know that? Sometimes it just helps for somebody to tell you, also me, even me. When you're going through something and someone tells you, even me, already you feel the burden is lifted. Am I in agreement with you on that? Can you believe the topic that we have today? Cultivating good financial habits. What a topic. Cultivating good financial habits. Believe it or not, I'm bringing this from a layman's perspective, but I want to bring it from the shoes of many, many Kenyans. And probably those of us who are watching from Africa may understand what I'm talking about. By the way, even Europe and the West may share in this. The East may also share in this because financial issues to some extent are very similar. You need to demystify your financial strains, your financial problems, and your financial struggles, because in our journey of motivation, I have come to discover that one of the major things that de-energizes humanity is when they lack financial muscle, when they lack financial control. Many of us are at a point where we are not independent financially. And that makes us more or less feel like we are just maybe a paycheck away from poverty. And that takes away a lot of control from us. You feel like if you're employed, if the next salary doesn't come, you're poor, you're done, and that's it. You lose your job, you've lost your life. It shouldn't be so. Because financial growth can come from that level of dependency to independence to freedom. By the way, not so many of us are financially free, because many of the people who are financially free are, you can say, the billionaires, multi-billionaires, but more than that, people who've discovered something on the inside and they walk above financial issues. You go to a level where you no longer worry about issues of finances or what a level to reach. Freedom is something for all of us to yearn for. If you meet people who are at a level of financial freedom, you may discover what you're missing. I heard someone say, ignorance is bliss. When you're ignorant, you are, you're in just Disney World. You're in a world of utopia. When you're ignorant, you really are okay. You are comfortable. Sometimes you can not know exactly what you miss until you encounter it. Have you ever met someone who is financially free? Have you ever desired to be financially free? Sometimes it only comes when you desire it. How much do you desire independence financially? How much? Did you ever think that you can grow, that you can move from that level? Has it ever hit you that financial growth is also for you? That is the point to begin. How do you look at the place where you were first hit by financial stagnation? There must have been a point, and this may come from histories, where you come from. Environments may have confined you to some kind of familiar zone, where if you get to the place of independence or growth, you feel lost. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. You feel lost because you are so used to dependency. You are so used to be on the lower level. You are so used to be, the person that is always in need, to the point that you've never imagined that you can be the one to support others. Am I now talking? Am I talking to many of us in Africa? Yeah. We have been at a point where we depend on charity. Nothing wrong about it, because humanity, to some extent, have to depend on one another. Humanity is insufficient. That is the truth. So it goes without saying that the third world, to some great extent, has to depend on the rich nations for support, especially on issues of health. When some countries like America pull support out of the health sector, the world suffers. Some countries, when they pull out support from these sectors that we depend on for our personal growth, we suffer, we feel it, because we have been at a point of charity. We have, there is a certain model, there is a certain financial model that the world has been on for quite some time, where we operate at a level of charity. That is okay. But it reaches a point where those who have gone through charity grow. Did you know that? That it reaches a point where they learn, financial lessons should be yearned for. As you are on that level of dependency, do you desire to learn? For example, a simple thing like setting goals. Have you ever set a goal, a financial goal? Has your financial goal ever been to be independent? I'm now not talking of freedom, because there are levels to move from dependency to independence. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever imagined that there are people who are at a higher level than you, and their worry is not your worry? Your worry is the next meal. Their worry is not the next meal. That is a level for you to start yearning for, start learning. How is it that they put this in place? How is it that some people have already set that in place? They have already fixed it. Is it that they, in their setting of goals, they're deliberate? What do you prioritize when you set goals? Financial goals. What do you prioritize? There are things you need to look at. Yeah, as you prioritize, because many people who are financially free have some kind of money machine. Did you know that? Either they have set some kind of business somewhere, or they've come up with some idea. And every time, even when they're asleep, That machine is yielding a coin, a shilling, a dollar to them. Did you know that? That you can reach a level where you come up with an idea that becomes like a money machine for you. Yeah? It may be your business. It may be something that you've, set, something that you've already put in place. Nothing wrong about being salaried, but the reality is that there are levels that salaries don't reach. Did you know that? It is only when you get to the level of investment that you can grow beyond salary. When you are salaried, you are free as far as your bills are concerned. Did you know that? You can pay your bill, probably your monthly bills, you can meet them. Cultivate that good financial habit as you get a salary, pay your bills, ensure that you prioritize. Look at debts which have very high interest rates, do away with them. There are some debts which have very high interest rates, and the longer they stay, the more they increase, and then they put you at a place of difficulty. Remember, I'm not talking as an expert. I'll bring an expert in the next show. I'm speaking from a point of a layman, just introducing this. Cultivating good financial habits, part 1. Let me call it so. Cultivating good financial habits, part 1. There is part 2 coming. So there is something called investment. When you invest, whatever that investment is in, that investment may be in the creativity, in your genius. What is it that you really like doing that you don't get tired doing? You may be seated at your workplace, but you're looking forward to lunchtime or evening time to go and do that thing. More often than not, that is what you can do without getting tired. That may be something that is driven from the inside of you. Those places of inner energy yield more, Those are places that can weather. They can weather the challenges of time, because whenever business is down, you still can do that thing for love of it, How good it is to do something because you enjoy it. You do it out of passion, such that even when it is down in giving rewards back to you, financial rewards, of course, it can still give you energy. You still feel like you're fulfilling something. There is a purpose why you're alive. Not all of us will be on the same level financially, but we all have individual purposes. There is nobody who is better than the other in terms of purpose, because when it comes to purpose, we are unique. We are all in different ages. We all manifest at different times. There may be a time when you bloom more, and that is not the time for the other person. That is why you need to be keen even on what exactly you like doing, and that is the area for you to move into and start investing in. But even as you're doing that, I would point out to you that be very realistic. Be very realistic. You've started by setting your goal. And I'm seeing like top on your list is that you want financial independence and possibly financial freedom. Why not? You can move from the level of independence to freedom. That may be your goal today. I don't want to help you dream small. Let me help you dream big. Dream of financial freedom. That is something beyond financial independence. So as you're investing, you are looking at where you are headed to. How keen are you on achieving that goal? There is something that makes you wake up every day, and that thing ignites you. It makes you feel excited. Even when you're unwell, you feel distracted. You don't want any sickness. You don't want distractions of any kind, because that thing keeps you moving. That exactly is why you're alive. That is what separates many of us. It is just at that place of passion. That's where we start working on very good financial habits. Your passion on what you're talented in, what you're gifted in, why you are alive. Your passion for that is what will make you wake up early or make you wake up every day and focus on it. Sometimes you even lack sleep at night because you are thinking so much about it. It is good to rest, but this means that you are so passionate about that. If there is passion in it, it is heading somewhere. Remember that. Anything that you're doing without passion, more often than not, it will die out. It will reach a point where it will become boring. But places where financial growth is obtained in passion are places of excitement. That's where the spark is. That's where energy is. So I'm calling on us today that even as we invest, let's invest in places of our passion. It is not all over. It is not in every place where you are meant to be. There is a place where you shine better. There is a place where you do well. There is a place where you don't struggle, where if you start working on it as a goal, you will achieve more. And by the way, it is not wrong for you to start today to think about your retirement. Yeah. Some people save for retirement. Yeah, it is a good habit for you to start right now to save for retirement. Someone told me that saving is not a culture, especially in our part of the world. Most of the people in the third world country, including me, are not fashioned to save. We don't force ourselves. We don't work on it. Did you know that financial habits create character? Because a habit is something you do deliberately. If you do it today, tomorrow, after about 21 days, by research, it becomes a character. So you start working on deliberate saving. Sometimes when you feel it, that is where to invest more. That is where to work on more. Because I see some people even getting to automating saving. It's like giving a standing order of some kind, maybe to your bank, that whenever money hits your account, it automatically goes into saving. You feel like, wow, I needed that money. I really needed it. But now because you've deliberately, automated it, slowly by slowly, it starts becoming a character. There are nations that have grown. They have a lot of savings. I know a country like China, which has gone very far in terms of saving. They have a lot in terms of saving because individuals in that country, you can share with me if you're from China, 0111 980 You may be understanding English. Send me a word there. Is it true that in your country, you've worked on the culture of saving, that it's natural? When you want to create a habit, what do? You deliberately push yourself beyond limits. You start pushing yourself. Growth is not easy. Growth is painful. Growth has to start from somewhere. You need to demystify it. Where does your financial pain stem from? And it starts from that place of desire. Sometimes you're so tired of being at a place of borrowing, but you need to ask yourself a few questions. Why am I in this state of borrowing for so long? Why am I on this state for so long? Because some people borrow without a plan. They borrow unnecessarily. Yeah. I know people who even borrow to engage in betting. They just borrow for fun. And it becomes like a disease. Borrowing in itself can become like a disease, especially if you get a lot of mobile platforms that encourage you to borrow and to bet. There is that appetite that comes with it. Slowly by slowly, you start borrowing unnecessarily. And more often than not, it becomes like a sickness where you just borrow and you discover that you are in debt. There is a debt of this nature and that nature. Many of us on our mobile phones in Kenya have a lot of debt. If you ask us, why did you get this debt and that debt and that debt? You get someone is way ahead in terms of the debts in the phone because we borrow unnecessarily. If someone were just to float money and say, hey, come and borrow this money. Already without thinking, you feel this is ready money. But that is not how it goes. Fashion your mind, train your mind. And I'm talking to myself also. You train your mind first and foremost to have a reason why you borrow. Look at yourself first. Go to a point where you evaluate your debts. Evaluate your debts, and sometimes don't underestimate the power of budgeting. Do you ever budget? Have you ever sat down to budget? I'm now not talking of national budget. I'm now not talking of county budgets. I'm talking of your individual budget plan. Do you budget for a month? These are things that we need to be deliberately focused on. Because when you start deliberately sitting down, you will discover you are actually rich. Put down a few sources of your income. You will be surprised that it's not just from that one source that you get your income from. Many of us have different sources. So when we sit down and start putting a list of what we get in a month, you get surprised. Hey, I didn't know I'm this rich, but why am I in need? Why am I always at a place of need, yet I have this amount of income? Simple. Budgeting for a month. Sometimes you force yourself deliberately to live below your means. It's not easy. That is not an easy thing for many of us to do. Many of us want flashy lives. You want a big car, you want a fuel guzzler, that when you drive, it makes a statement. No problem about that. But sometimes it's good to even go for that smaller car where you take less fuel, or if you're on public transport, sometimes it's good to budget even for your transport fares, that I don't move around unnecessarily. These are things which people can do. These are things which yield good financial habits. Look at nations that have grown. Individuals are financially enlightened. And today, even as we talk about financial inclusion, to everybody, including people with disabilities, it means that everyone has an opportunity to grow. Financial inclusion brings everyone in the bracket of saving. Did you know that? Including women, people with disability, even children. You can save. There are saving accounts where you can start deliberately training your children that if you have extra money that you don't need, you don't have to eat everything today, you can put aside this amount. That is some form of training. Good financial habits demands training. Do we train our children? Do we do that? Do we train the upcoming generation that the nation that is coming ahead, that in the near future, we may not have to look far. We may not have to look at the nations in the West. Consider the panic that hit our country, Kenya. I don't know about other nations, but the panic that hit our nation when the elections happened in the United States of America, and there was a policy there, America First. So many places where we were getting support from the United States of America, funding was cut off. Suddenly, there was panic. And then there was wisdom from some corners. Some people started saying, no, we needed to build ourselves. This can only come from a culture of saving. I'm introducing something. I'll bring an expert. I'm bringing this from a layman's perspective, cultivating good financial habits. Yes, from a layman's perspective. That's why I know many of the people giving their views. Yeah, I'll bring a professional next week in the next show to just bring to light many of the issues that I'm pointing out today. But just in case you send your comments, your questions, I can match it, at least for today, okay? Yes, cultivating good financial habits. Growth is not easy. Growth is difficult. For you to grow, you have to agree to go through pain. Did you know that? Treasures of Life Show is your home of energy. And one of the things that we keep saying here is that we focus on the soul. Even issues of finances are emotional. Did you know that? Take, for instance, why is it that advertisement, have you ever looked at advertisements keenly? At least for many of you who have advantage of sight. Look at an advertisement very well. You will notice a few things about it. It is to appeal to your emotions. I'm sure there'll be good music there. There'll be some good-looking men and women there. There'll be some good products there. Why? It is to appeal to your emotions. That is why for a good financial habit creation, guess what you need to do? You need to work on your appetite, your affinity to, are you overwhelmed by love of some products? That when you come across a phone, you always want another one and another one. What is it that is your, for lack of a better word, craving? What is your obsession? What are you obsessed with? That is the area of danger. Some of us are obsessed with addictions and indulgences, such that whenever we have a windfall, whenever we have an income, our minds go to addictions and indulgences. What does this say? These are some of the places that we need growth in. Yeah. It is not good to drink, no, but budget. Did you know that you can budget? You can budget for the things that you love doing. You can budget for your hobbies, Get into that hobby with a plan. Yes. Some crazy things happen. Yeah. You may go to that club and you gobble a lot of money because that is your obsession. And for some of us, we are addicted to betting. You bet without a break. And the more you get into betting, the more you want more. Yeah, nothing wrong. Some of these betting products that we have around support communities, nothing wrong. But you need to understand that even on betting, work on your appetite, Work on your appetite for betting. Work on your appetite for addictions. That betting can be your indulgence. Work on it. I love football. Man U, Arsenal, Chelsea. I love Kenyan football too. Don't take me for granted. Shabana, AFC Leopards, and the rest. So when there is an opportunity for me to watch football, I watch it. But this is what I know goes along with games around. There is betting. It is good because many of these betting products improve the community, but do it with caution, especially for those who are just beginners, beginning. You may be at a point where you're beginning life, where you need to start saving, where you need to start creating a culture, a financial culture. So you start thinking. Remember, in your goals, you need to create some kind of ambition, some kind of a desire, Yeah, don't say you're too old to desire, some kind of financial progress. What is the mental picture you have? It is amazing that it's from the mental picture that we create ambitions. For some of us, we just see ourselves in a good car, in a good house. We see ourselves in a good environment, a clean environment, healthy place, and that mental picture becomes your push. Yeah, it is important for you to have a mental picture so that it can help you even as you grow financially. You are aiming at a place. Yeah, remember that sometimes when you're working on building finances, you will reach at a point of independence and finally freedom. Because one thing is for sure, the more you work on being financially free, you will reach a point where you will have a few dollars, a few shillings here and there to spare. By that time, have you already planned for your talent, your gifting, the things that you love to do? It should be deliberate. But here is a word of caution. Have an emergency fund. What do you do when you get into an emergency? Many of us get into emergencies. Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have an emergency plan? Take, for instance, if you're a young person, you may have an emergency, probably an accident. You may be in a relationship, probably a married person. Your child may be unwell, sick. You may have something that may just catch you off your feet. Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have an emergency plan? Some people get into insurance, health insurance. These are some forms of emergency plans. You can get into some kind of insurance. Insure your house. Yeah, insure it if you love it so much. Insure the education of your children. Get some kind of financial security. Yeah. All these things, if you set them ahead of time, you are creating a habit. These are things that we need to get into. Yeah. Yeah. You need to start now. Start now, right now. It doesn't matter yesterday where you've been financially. I'm helping you to demystify it today. You can begin now. The good thing about starting, it can be any time. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter where you are right now in life. You can begin now. This can be your starting point. You can start now, take stock of your life, all the sectors of your life. Just take stock and look at them from a financial angle, Take stock of all the arenas of your life. I'm talking of your health. I'm talking of your emotions, where is it that you get joy, Take stock of your other areas. It's amazing. Some of us even need some spiritual planning, because even in spiritual matters, many of us invest, and we invest without a plan. Plan even for your spiritual activity, as you go into your religious places, do you just give without a plan? Plan. How much is it that you're going to give there for offertory, for your tithes, for the building of the mosques and the churches? Plan for these things so that you are not, caught off-footed. Yeah. Yeah. These are some of the financial habits that I'm introducing today. Remember, I said I'm bringing an expert to help us, in these matters. But one of the, reaching financial freedom is not a joke. It's a deep matter. Reaching financial freedom takes every second. Always remember, money mistakes can be corrected, but time is gone forever. There is the treasure of time. You can take advantage of the time today. There are different areas that you can start on now. Many of the people who do some things, maybe investing, saving, or doing a few things in their financial lives, say, I wish I began earlier. I could have been a multi-billionaire by now. I could be a multi-millionaire, because of the treasure of time. Money mistakes can be corrected, but sometimes when you take too long, to correct errors, then you lose on quite a bit. And we are on levels. Today, your loss may be in 1,000, 2,000, but with time, as you start growing, your loss becomes in millions, You make a small mistake and you lose in millions. It all depends on where you are today. That is why constantly, as you engage in investments, make learning your constant habit. Always yearn to learn. There are books, there are documentaries, there are places you can go to. And for those of us who are financially dependent and are yearning for independence, there are places where you can get mentorship. Yeah. Seek for mentorship, financial mentorship. Be deliberate on it. Go to places where you can be guided on how to be financially independent. There are things that you can do in the world right now, businesses in our country. Just look around. Is it that people love fashion? Then you can engage in fashion business. You can be a clothes seller. We have a lot of millionaires in Gikomba, selling clothes, but they are moving in millions. You can get into motorbikes. There's a lot of motorbikes around. Have you ever thought of putting up a spare parts shop for motorbikes? You can look for something to do. I hear people getting into hardware, because of construction industry. Some people say people always eat. One thing about humanity is that they will always eat. So they get into the foods industry. You start out something where you sell. This is for the reason of creating a money machine. Always remember that a financially independent individual is emotionally stable. There is some instability that comes with financial instability. Yeah. And that is why, as I've been sharing these topics on this show, every emotional time, every emotional topic, the financial aspect always comes up. It means that for financial stability, for emotional stability, financial stability is key. Finances and emotional stability work hand in hand. They tie to your self-esteem, very close to your self-esteem, very close to your confidence in life. Yeah, there is a close relationship about finances and your personal prosperity. The health, your prospered health, being in good health, very closely tied to your financial stability. What does that mean? That we need to be deliberate about seeking financial growth. It is not just for a few. It is not just for a certain people to financially grow. I've spoken of building that emergency fund. I've spoken of setting goals. I've spoken of starting early, making sure that you start planning early, saving early, doing your financial plans early. You should be deliberate about assessing your expenditures. Sometimes just sit down and take stock of how you've spent. Whether you look at your monies as little or a lot, just take stock of how you've spent it. That's where habits begin. Ask yourself, don't do this in a manner that it will stifle you, because you also need your joy in life. But sometimes just sit down and ask yourself, at the beginning of today, I had 100,000 shillings. How much did I spend it? How did I spend that money? Of course, there is a little I used for saving. There is a little I used for giving to others. There is a little I used for my talents. That tells you there are areas of focus. As you sit down to take stock of how you use your finances, it will direct you to places where you're using your monies a lot. It's interesting. Many of us use monies in places that don't give back, places that sap, but they don't bring back. The places which bring back to us are very few: investments and savings. Many times we go into assets, Did you know that sometimes you may buy a very good car, but it's an asset? How much does it give back to you? Sometimes you go into buying a good home, a great bungalow, good life, but again, it's an asset. Is it something that gives you back? It is time for you to start thinking of the money machine zones, places where you can gain back, because the more you grow financially, the more comfort comes. But financial growth demands some discomfort. Creating good habits is not for the fearful. This is not a journey for the people who are in fear. These are for bold people, people who are ready to be uncomfortable, because in future, there is comfort. For today, you may be a bit uncomfortable, but down the line, you may be more comfortable. Because saving for most of us is something that we need to focus on. This is a call for Kenya. This is a call for the families and the people in Kenya, the youth of Kenya. Our remedy, our hope is in saving. You know, the more the world gets cocooned into anti-regionalism, because many of the nations that we have been looking unto now are looking inside. You know, suddenly we hear of Brexit. Suddenly Britain is on its own. Suddenly we hear of America first. These are areas that have supported many of these third world countries. They are reevaluating their models. This is time now for us to start looking on the inside. Our hope can only come from the inside. One thing about Africa is that our riches, it doesn't lie just in the air. Our riches lies in the true resources we have in us. We have our human resource, which is in plenty. But beyond that, if we came up with a collective currency today, we would put it against our minerals. Yeah. Not so much like the dollar. The dollar is very much fiat. It's not based on something very, it's fiat. But when we look at a currency coming up in Africa, it's based on real gold, real diamond somewhere in Congo or in, we have minerals that we can base our riches on. That tells us something, that the next frontier of growth for the world is Africa. That is an opportunity. What does that do? It means that if you want to make more riches, then be in Africa right now. If you want to make more riches, be in Kenya. There is a big human resource. Look around and start thinking of places where you can cash in. If you did an investment in one area right now, and then you took time, in the next 10 years, you'd be rich, wealthy. It only takes one decision, the spark. Where is the spark? Where is that place where, decision is made? It starts from there. Just make that decision today. It is not right when you are at a place where you are so tired, lacking passion for life, always at the place of no growth, always at a place of stagnation, always at a place of need. It is not correct, I keep saying, to lack basic amenities. It is not correct. It is not correct. It is an injustice. Did you know that poverty is an injustice? Yeah, it is. It is not correct when you cannot meet, when I cannot meet my health expenses, you cannot meet your health expenses. When transport is an issue, it is not correct. It is not correct when you cannot tour how lovely Kenya is. You cannot move around. Yeah, you cannot go around this country and enjoy the land. I see many foreigners trooping in our nation, visiting the very good sites of our country, and very few of us there. Yet it is right here with us. Because of financial reasons, it is not correct. That is in itself an injustice. We need to start deliberately working on our independence so that we may push in for further growth of our economy and our individual happiness. Because happiness index is directly connected to financial prosperity. When you look at the happiness index of the world, top on the list is financial independence and financial freedom. If you go to our list of multi-millionaires, I'm told research shows that there are only 10,000. Only $10,000 millionaires we have. And a lot of us are in need. It is time for us to start partnering collaborating, finding ways of wealth creation. Even the PW sector in itself is a new frontier of wealth creation. Yeah. Even the PWD sector, where you are, that is a new frontier of wealth creation. Mine is just to introduce the topic. I'll bring an expert next week in this show, the Treasures of Life show. But as I'm planning to bring him, just give me your views on 0111980384, and we shall share more with the guest here with us. Look out for our next show. This has been the Treasures of Life show, and my name is Jonas Simba. Our sign language interpreter has been Gideon Minor. 0111980384. Give us your views. See you next week on the Treasures of Life show. Bye-bye.